I'm going to turn down the game volume before I launch the game this time. Okay? Because I care. I care about your ears. We're not going to be blowing out anyone's ears anymore. All right. Still feels goofy that you skipped the whole EQ era, was stuck in Asheron's Call, and from that to WoW release. Really? I played Asheron's Call for a little bit. When are we going to get a Pantheon guesser? Someday. Someday. But yeah, I played Asheron's Call for a good little bit there. When did Asheron's Call come out in relation to EQ2? Or I'm sorry, EQ. Yeah, no more no Sonic Nuke today. I might forget next time, but as for today, I have remembered. Okay. Oh, look at that. Of course it yeah. The one day I remember it, you know. There we go. Asheron's Call would be 94. Wow, so you played Asheron's Call that long and through EQ. All the way up to WoW. Wow, that's crazy. I assumed wrongly, I'm sure, that once EQ came out, most people shifted over. I think everything is, yeah, everything looks like it's where it should be. As always, let me know if there's, you know, some audio tweaks. Maybe we could turn down locomotion just a smidge. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so what's the issue with shards? Do people not like shards? I didn't think I was fat till the woman in McDonald's said, "Sorry about your weight." Thank you, Dayhawk. It did catch me a little off guard. It absolutely did. Yes. Quite off guard. The guard was quite off. I like shards, but don't like failed login between switching. I like shards, but they could use some changes to mitigate common issues. Shards lead to people hopping to try and kill the same thing. I don't like shards. It makes the world feel empty. Without shards, everything would be camped. No shards means no group or harder finding groups in many cases. Everything is camped, killed, or farmed. Then there's not enough content. They promote you moving to new places rather than the spots everyone always goes. So much is in the open world that you can't instance it. No shards if there is enough content at each level range, but if there isn't, then shards seem needed to allow all progress. Interesting. I mean, you guys, some of you anyway, I'm sure have heard me talk about like this concept of player push, where, you know, you can think of it in as simple of terms as times in these kinds of MMOs, like an EverQuest or what have you, where you're really any game where the content isn't largely instanced, where you're sharing and contesting content. You have a place you want to go. You go there, and it's full. There's no room. The stuff you're after, the thing you want to camp, is taken. This concept of like player push being where that, specifically because of that, you have to go somewhere different, and in some cases you end up going places you would not have gone before. And I've used the example, my own personal examples, where, you know, I've gone to I need to go to Dimmoth so I can sell and get engage, where, you know, I will want to go to Unrest, but Unrest is full and I wait around, can't get a group, so I end up actually going over to Mistmore, which I've never been to before, ended up having a great time and getting to fully experience that zone. And I may never have gone there had I always just been able to go where I wanted to go. So to some extent, there is some extent where not being able to just, you know, hop to a different shard, or obviously how we're not going to be like instancing the majority of the world, yes, there needs to be enough content and enough options where you do have places to kind of be pushed to. So I understand that part of it. And it is possible, and I think there are many things like this where when you're in this stage of development and you're still building out the world and things like that, then some of the things that we do during this phase can be different than what we do at launch, once there is much more content. But I think, you know, I think the way you do shards matters as well. Like if it's the kind of thing where you can just go, you can just jump to a shard whenever you want, and you can either start one whenever you want, or they're always up or whatever, then that's different than shards forming naturally based on population. So when you reach a critical mass of population, you're like, okay, this zone can only hold so many players. Once you tip over that line, that's when a second shard opens up. And yeah, you can hop over to it and go from there. But the ability to like switch back and forth however many times you desire, and we need to definitely get some more guardrails around that. Yes, Knit, for sure. We're actually planning on doing, as we get closer to it, we're going to be releasing like big dev diaries for each class and talking about, you know, all the updates that they're going to have and taking a look at their mastery options and things like that. Yeah, you definitely won't have to wait until the patch drop to start, getting a good sense of what's coming for them. I know it's like one of the most anticipated things right now too, so we'll definitely be doing that. It is a comfy hoodie. It is super comfy. Yo, Toprum with the 35 stream streak. Corwin with the 7 stream streak. Right on, my friend. Hey, Joppa, I think that's fine as long as there are other options at my level. Exactly, makes people expand their reach. Shards are also break immersion for me. Anyway, hope you're having a good day. I am having a good day. Thank you, Corin. I hope you are as well. And I get that. I get that shards definitely are, can be kind of like, can take you out of the zone, you know? Take you out of the vibe, the immersion. Hey, Joppa, I just found out your stream. I have a few questions for you. Hey. Let's hear them. Welcome, man, Brew. Good to see you. Maybe a timer between shard switching. Yeah, I think that's definitely part of some of the rails we can put on it, for sure, to help. What's going on, XOR? Good to see you. Hello there. Okay. Let's sell. We're actually going to... These are my starting axes. I'm going to get rid of these. We're going to throw this bad boy on there. Perfect. Let's go sell all the bear tallow that we have. Okay, these are all foraging items. Okay. Patch of dark woven silk. Is that worth holding on to? Let's see. Hey, Joppa, just on the topic of having alternate places to go with the plan to split the starting zones by race, if you didn't have shards, where would you go if, say, the Gobi Caves were packed out? Feels like we would need a port with the current plans. Well, okay, let's think about that a little bit. And, you know, bear with me here because this is just my thought process and we'll see where we get with it. Actually, before I even get into this, let me find the ranger trainer because I don't want to keep forgetting to like get the things I need. Ranger trainer. This is why we need, one of the things I want to do soon is set up like a dialogue tree for our guards that can give you directions. Because even I, like, when it's something really specific for a class that I've not played or whatever, like, where are the ranger trainers? I don't know. I don't remember. It'd be nice to be able to go up to a guard and be like, they're like, what are you looking for? And I say, show me where the ranger trainer is. And they're like, oh, well, that's just head north. Head south-north. Up through the bottom of the Delta Minor. It's near the bank? What did you say? Near the bank and tavern? Oh, they're like out here. Yeah. Okay. Just came back to me. We can get our traits, our next trait, which is cool. And we have enough at least to get... Wait, what did we already have? We have engage. Moonrose Balm. Look at all this stuff. We need withdraw. Aim to kill is 12. Brightfire Spark. We don't have that yet, do we? Nope. That's cool. Upgraded Swift Shot. Sick. Okay, we're cooking a little bit now. All right, let's grab these. Get our trait. Swift shot. Beautiful. How do you see all your inventory? With the O key. So if you hit O, you'll open all of your bags. And it's a nice little way to, yeah, see everything at once. Just kind of scoot these over a little bit, actually. Yo, Amber, thank you so much for the Prime sub. My friend, I appreciate that big time. Mana Brohan with the Prime as well, the 7 months. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very, very much. Very, very much. I could have tracked the trainer. Okay. Let's get to some of these questions now. So the first question that was asked, Corwin, you were asking, if we look at Throne Fast, for example, and we think of like that specific situation where the goblin caves are camped, where else can you go? So again, I want to go back to EQ is always one of my like true north starting points, because there's very few things that I think back to EverQuest and think, you know, they didn't handle that well. Most things that EQ did, I feel like they handled it pretty darn well. Hold on though. Let me just we're gonna change this to our, we're gonna go middle mouse with this one. What do we want for withdraw though? That's our heal. We're gonna move that to, we'll make that shift to G. Yes. I really wanted to have fractal arrow. Yeah, let's put fractal arrow there. And then T, I think that'll work okay. T for swift shot, and then we've got A for the, okay. I think that's good. Except, yeah, we need our withdraw, and that's going to be, this is where I wish we could have like shift mouse, like scroll wheel up, shift scroll wheel down. That would be really nice. We need to get that in soon. What are you going to be? I think we're gonna have to go with like, I don't like shift middle mouse, but I think that's the play. Let's try it at least. Okay. Now let's get down to business. So if you take a place, like take any slice in EQ, right? Where you're in a low level area. Let's start with, I don't know. Let's start with, you're a human and you're starting in Kanos. The options that you have available to you are Black Burrow, and that's pretty much it. And depending on the era of EQ you're talking about, that could be, these guys drop gear, so I'm gonna, depending on the era of EQ you're talking about, you could be talking about some very overcrowded areas. Black Burrow could be like super overcrowded a lot of the times. There we go. Oh, yes. And so if you couldn't get a group in Black Burrow, if you couldn't find room in there, then you would have to go, you know, fight animals. You'd have to go fight, you know, some of the roaming gnolls or roaming skeletons or the little skelly ruins that were up there. You'd have to dip into West Corona, you know, and just try to find something to fight. So the way that I want it to feel in Pantheon is if you go to the Goblin Caves and you don't have room in there, then you're going to have to, you know, settle for either some travel time. So you could head to the Galdassi ruins in Wild's End. You'll eventually be able to go to Mangle Rock in Fairthale. In those other, you know, 2 starting areas, starting zones. Or, and the key difference with Pantheon versus something like EQ is that you've also, in Pantheon, you have Gadai camps. You've got the spider caves. You've got Lars's, camp. I guess that's just an extension of Gadai camps. You've got the hobgoblins. And the goal with these places, and this is something that you guys are going to see much more come spring, is we want to increase the total amount of like named and rare NPCs that exist in some of these areas, so that, yeah, you're not going to be like, totally kidding yourself out. Forgot all of my like skills are super low. Oh my. Not enough momentum. Okay. We're gonna be dead here. And I didn't bind. I haven't bound. So, welcome to, this is an old school MMORPG, an old school, classically spirited MMO. I ran all the way to this adjacent zone here, died, forgot to bind, and now I'm respawning back here, and I have to make that run again. So, yeah. Wow. Will it always be super dangerous to run from throwing past Wild's End? No, that is another change that we want to make, is creating more of a thoroughfare that you still definitely be dangerous when you get further into Wild's End if you stray from the path. I think of, like, for example, even in WoW Classic, like trying to run from like Ironforge to Stormwind and having to run through the wetlands, and those, I don't know if you guys had this experience with those alligators along the road. If you weren't careful, you could aggro them and get chomped up pretty quick. All right. No, you're good, Glorf. I'm gonna run back. I just want to see if I can find a sow. Any sow in or near Avelia? Oh, someone's offering to resurrect me. Okay. I will accept. But yeah, so just to cap off that topic, we want there to be more minor camps, smaller camps, things that aren't like these premier or really big, deep dungeons that you can peel off to, and still feel like there's a reason to do it, Still feel like there's something that you can benefit from doing it, whether it be a piece of gear or maybe, who knows, an ability drop, or there's like a really cool quest or two that you can do there or find there. That's what I expect to be in that case. Because in EQ, like, yeah, if you tried to go to Crushbone or Blackburrow or something like that, and it was full and there was nowhere to actually set up in there, your options were, you still had a lot of options, but it was just killing animals. It was killing. There wasn't a lot of things to actually like chase or like be excited about looking for, and so I think that'll be a nice evolution that we're doing. Is can't can't get a group in the Gobby caves, but you know, in the spider caves nearby over here, there's actually a couple of named NPCs that spawn in there and some pretty decent stuff. And if that's covered, then you know that the Lars camp, same thing. You know, you've got a couple named NPCs there. It's good experience, etc. So the wetlands run is always fun, if not risky. Yeah, it is definitely a core memory. Laser, I agree. Absolutely loving the Necromancer. I hope y'all add armor bonuses and appearance soon. Good to hear, Quackums. Good to hear. Yes, if I missed, so Ambrew, your question, I've noticed that druids can wear anything, everything shamans can, along with other items, but shamans have a pretty limited gear selection. Like Gown of the Hearth is a 2 spell power chest piece that is int casters plus druid. Is there any reason shaman aren't able to wear that? This one's interesting. This one's really interesting because it's one of the things that we found that shows like how times and mindsets have changed. Like if you think back to EverQuest itemization, for those of you that played EQ, there were so many like seemingly weird class restrictions. And I don't know how many of you guys think about that fondly, or how many of you always felt like that was weird or felt off. I think about it fondly. Like there's something about that was like interesting to me. But what we've found is not everybody, a lot of people don't really resonate with that anymore. And we found that consistently in feedback where, you know, you'll see something drop and, you know, people be like, why can't I wear this? I can't wear this. So it feels like one of those things that made sense back in the day because there was nothing else to compare it to. And it was just kind of like the way it was. And it just was known and understood and people kind of got used to it. Whereas now, yeah, there's been a lot of streamlining. There's been a lot of clarifying, and I think people just don't, they don't resonate with it anymore. They find it confusing, frustrating. So I say all that to say, come spring, a lot of the itemization updates that we're doing are going to be moving more away from like heavy class specific gear. Certainly like very class specific, like only this one class can wear this or only this one class can wear that. We do plan to have some of that, but not quite as much. And we're also doing a little bit of changing. Being with the wipe allows us, kind of affords us the opportunity to do more kind of some of the sweeping things that we really need to do with itemization. And one of those things is to clarify and refine the attributes that classes really need, and then like find ways to harmonize that within archetypes better than we do now. And I'll give you an example that hopefully makes what I just said a lot more easy to understand. It's the kind of thing where we would like for there to be things like shining metallic robes, oracle robes in Pantheon, where if you are a caster, whether you're a wizard or a summoner or an enchanter or a necromancer, you're going to want that. Like right now, there are a lot of robes that not only can some classes not equip, but not, you know, usually there's not a single robe, for example, that every class of that type is going to want or is going to be good for that class. And so, yes, when we get to spring, a lot of the itemization changes we're making are going to reflect definitely improving and cleaning that up quite a bit. So you will see, for example, to your question specifically, like things that druids can wear and shaman can't wear. I'm not going to say that there aren't going to still be things like that, because again, I think that's, as the game grows and as itemization grows and there's a lot more places for items to drop, you know, it's some of that is good. Like some of that is interesting, and it provides layers. I definitely think it's felt a little more acutely right now, you know, just given where we are. But hopefully that gives you a good idea of where we're headed with gear. Well, when will casters get some less hobo-looking gear? Hey, good question. There might be a patch coming up soon that could introduce you know I'm not saying stat normalization. I'm not saying we're going that far, but I'm just saying we're going to be making some improvements. We're going to be making a few improvements to just help make item acquisition a little cleaner. Yeah. And just let me play, please know that we will never, ever do NPC level scaling. I mean, just from a personal place, that kills a game for me. As soon as that happens, it's one of the reasons why I can't play like retail WoW. Because I cannot handle level scaling of NPCs. I have to feel like I am getting more powerful. There are some people, there's nothing wrong with this perspective, there's nothing wrong with it at all. There are some people who want their MMO experience to be challenging at all times. They don't ever want to go back somewhere and just kind of steamroll content. They always want to be challenged. Totally legitimate perspective and desire. It's just the polar opposite of me. Yeah. What's up, Datamok? I did find this hat. I have not found my beanie yet, so yeah. I also continue to forget, this is streamer brain in action here, I continue to forget that I have no skill in two-handed blunt at the moment, so nor do I have any skill in my nuke. I did thankfully get enough, nope. At least I can heal. I think we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. I'm buffed, so you know, it's only so scary. Oof, that survival shot feels good. What I mean by we won't do NPC scaling is that NPCs levels will lock with yours, and NPCs will scale up with you as you level up. So like the idea that these NPCs here would be like level 10 right now because I'm level 10. It doesn't lock to it exactly, but within like a couple of levels or whatever. And if I came back to the same spot when I was like level 35, these NPCs would con like 32, 33 to me. That's what I mean by level scaling. That we will never do. Ever. How's the testing going? It's good. It's good. It's one of those weird things. Like part of me is like, man, I wish that I could just show exactly what we're working on stream, because what I would be doing right now instead of doing this playtesting stuff, which I would plan to do later, yeah, I'd be in Nightfall Crypt right now. There's a couple of things that I'm planning on working on a little bit later, where it's not obviously I'm not it's not bug related. I'm not working on the bug fixes, but there's just a few other little things that I'm sliding in, some polish and different things. Guys, I think you're gonna love the zone. I think you're gonna love it. It's really freaking cool. It's really cool. There's gonna be some surprises in there too that I think you guys are really gonna appreciate. It's really good. It is shaping up to be like this was meant to be kind of like a you know, we've got a ton of stuff that we're working on for spring. This was meant to be kind of like a little, just a little something, you know? And man, like it is becoming something really special. Will NFC be instance? No. No, it will not be instance. Not now. It is a perfect candidate for a potential area that we would instance in the future. As a very specific, because it's a very specific kind of place. Like it's a very specific kind of concept. It's not really like your traditional, just like your Black Rose Keep or your Halnir Cave or your Nightwolf Knoll or anything like that. It's like, it's meant to be very unique in how it exists in the world, because there are multiple of these scattered throughout the world, or there will be eventually, and they are all a little bit different. Come on now. Heavy crushing. Dude, I got some. Ooh. Oh, that's not updating. Okay. It's that weird bug. But it's definitely something, and like I said, I think I mentioned this on Discord. I can't remember exactly where I said it, but I think you guys will understand once you experience it why I would say that. Like why it would be something that I think would benefit from being instance. Would be really cool if it was an instance experience. So yeah, I think in some ways Eldon is I think you'll find it's much better than an Eldon. And it feels more dungeon-like than an Eldon, but it's just perfect for like a run, thinking of it in like a run mindset. You have a starting point and a finish point, and you kind of complete the experience. And there's also additional things that kind of add to why that fits thematically with what the area is, and you know how you find it, how you gain entrance to it, things like that. Yeah. Why do you think Eldon killed EverQuest? You can limit how often you can enter an instance. Yeah, you can't. Totally. Yeah. There's a lot you can do to kind of like manage it, constrain it, keep it feeling like a special experience. You know, it's not the kind of thing you can just like run back to back to back over and over and over again. Are there still wipes in this game? Yes. Well, we have a wipe coming up in the spring. That's our first wipe since we launched EA. There is one more guaranteed wipe when we launch 1.0. The goal is to not wipe, but we will wipe if we have to. And, you know, it kind of comes with the caveat that, you know, there are certain things that would make a wipe an additional wipe between those two necessary. Yeah, I think it's just important to make that caveat, but the only planned wipes that we have right now are the one coming in the spring and then the one at launch. PTR will be open to the public, yeah. Our village is going to be more fleshed out in the spring. Some of them will have a little bit more fleshing out done by spring. Expect that kind of thing to be more of a summer update thing, and then at that point you'll continue to see that improve all the way up to 1.0. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There we go. Get a little bit extra damage there. Any chance Rangers can get a front flip? I know that I want their engagement withdrawal to be a lot cooler than it is. A lot more stylish than it is. I don't know if we're going to go full front flip. But definitely want it to be cooler. I'm just catching up with chat. Yeah, I'm curious, like, for those of you that think Eldon hurt EQ, without agreeing or disagreeing or anything, I'm just curious, like, why you think that is. Oh, we got two. Oh, good. I just withdrew right into a pebble, and it stopped me. Mick Madang, thank you so much for the help, by the way. Over here, keeping me alive. I have a feeling I'm going to run right into Bolt here at some point. Where is Bolt? Is Bolt visible? I'll just skill up my hammer on this guy. Made the world seem more empty. So, I experienced LDON a little bit, but like, how was it actually incorporated? Like, is it the kind of thing where once Eldon released, you were just like always queuing up for Eldon instances? Was it like the best way to do something? That's a part I don't really remember. Is like what was actually going on at that time? Did people stop going to other dungeons? Did people stop doing other content? Okay, so it almost kind of gave you like a reprieve from camping. So if you were definitely somebody that at that point was getting tired of camping and fighting, well, I should say fighting over camps, Eldon was kind of this nice reprieve where you could go and just grind those. Okay, that makes sense. You could get some very good items from there, so it made some things much easier. Yeah, okay. So yeah, like essentially what that did then, the way that EQ did it, again, if I'm just, you know, based on what I'm picking up from chat here, you've got the introduction of multiple different dungeons that give you reasonable XP, good loot, that are instanced, and therefore your days of competing over, you know, the Cobalt King or, you know, Drelsna or whatever. Like you, why does Drelsna? Why are you camping Drelsna? I mean, like gear grind camps. Now you could do that through those. It was still group content. Okay. Yeah, but I can definitely see it being the beginning of what started to change, like, that aspect of the game where, you know, until then or up until that point, you're having to kind of like interact with other people. You're actually like going places that end up being full. So it's providing this alternative that does like streamline your experience quite a bit. I can see that. Waited too long. Need to be leveling up my evocation as well. Oof, nice hit. Hey, okay. Hey. Wow, that's a rare drop. Kind of, right? I feel like I've killed a lot of these and I haven't seen maybe but like one other of those across all my characters. Joppa, I think Pantheon is going for an older school style combat system, correct? I'm watching you kill these mobs and you're ending up with roughly 70% of your health. If soloing leaves you at 70%, isn't it still viable, just slower? And at what point does old school pacing become artificial time sink instead of meaningful danger? Yes, Pantheon is going for an somewhat of an older school style combat system, but not. It's very important how you define that. We are not going for a combat system that feels janky or sluggish. We are going for the opposite. We are not going for a combat system that is overly simplistic in terms of just a simple auto attack with a very low APM. We want to have kind of a variety. We want to have some classes that are a little bit lower APM, some classes that are a little higher, some classes that have like a lower skill ceiling, some that have a higher skill ceiling. We want there to be variety. But we're also not trying to create like a super twitchy, you know, experience either. We really want something kind of in the middle. And even with that middle point, we want some classes that lean more, you know, a little more old school in pace and feel, and some that lead a little more, you know, a little bit more involved. But yeah, the soloing question is a big one, because a lot of people, when they hear about Pantheon or they hear that it's classically inspired or that it takes a lot of inspiration from EverQuest, they import this idea of, okay, well then it's like a forced grouping game. It's super slow and punishing. Like you can't really do anything by yourself, and that is completely untrue. It's untrue already, and then it's also one of the big things we're addressing in the spring update is exactly that. So right now you have a very WoW-like elite and non-elite NPC system. They're called chevrons in Pantheon because they have a little chevron symbol on the nameplate. And what that does is it drives this kind of hard line between, you know, what you can fight in the world. So like right now I'm fighting these bandits. I'm level 10. I'm fighting these things. They're level... I mean, I'm buffed like crazy. I have help right now from McMad. If I didn't have that and I was just on my own, didn't have any buffs, I probably would be needing to rest more in between fights. And it would take me a little bit longer to kill things. And I would be specifically looking for things that were lower level than me, you know. So it would take a little longer. But right behind me here, if I target this thing has a chevron symbol. This whole camp and all of the bandit camps like it in this area, I can't go to because those are like elite NPCs. And while that definitely allowed us to like dial in group content more quickly, it's just made like the game's accessibility a lot lower than we would like. You know, we want players to be able to log in, and if they're a solo, if they're a duo or a trio, small group, if they're more casual, we just want the game to be a little more open to players like that. And so, at risk of rambling, to answer your question, in the spring, time to kill for NPCs is going to be going up a little bit. We want fights to last longer. We want there to be a little bit more attrition. Management of resources, like your health, your mana, various things. We also want the experience reward for killing NPCs with that new time to kill to be higher, so that you feel adequately rewarded when you do manage to kill something. So yeah, it'll be this nice little, it's meant to fit kind of in this little pocket between like classic WoW and EverQuest. Really is. It's meant to just kind of slot right in there. Is there any plans, any more plans with the weather system, night, day, etc.? Yes, there is definitely. We want to have more like stormy type stuff, lightning flashes, lightning bolts. We also have like a wind system that's being worked on that, you know, will have implications for sailing and gliding, but also implications on like, you know, the environment and whatnot. Some of that shader work is actually what's caused a gap here in what used to be flowing grass and flowing trees and stuff in the wind. So that'll be coming back. Ow. We be able to get struck by lightning? That's what I want. That's what I want. We had that in a raid encounter. We definitely have like the guts to make that work, where you can see like a lightning bolt kind of building up on the ground, and then it does like splash damage when it strikes. So that's definitely what we're going to be trying to make happen for sure. Hey, this game any good? What's up, Puka? I'm biased. I'm the creative director, lead designer, so I'm definitely biased. But yes, I think this game is good. I do. Yeah, I'm super buffed. Super buffed. I don't get it, Joppa. So our characters on the EA servers get wiped in the spring, and then people can start again on EA servers while testing on PTR, or will we all play in the PTR after wipe? No. Okay, huge. When the PTR comes up, it'll be open to the public. Anybody can play on it. The important thing to understand about the PTR is that it's the PTR will wipe somewhat regularly. So don't yet look at the PTR as like, this is going to be my new home. Once we launch Pantheon, once it hits 1.0, that will likely change, and the PTR will be more stable, or you'll at least be able to like copy characters over and, you know, do all that stuff. But the PTR is going to be, until we hit that spring update, the PTR is going to be a place to check out things as they're coming into the game, to check out the new systems and kind of see how things are coming along. But it's not going to be like a, you know, it's not going to have perfect uptime. It's not, you know, it's going to be wiped regularly enough. Once the spring update hits, the PTR will still exist. So we'll still be in the habit of rolling out, you know, changes to the PTR before they hit live. But you will definitely want to, at that point, you know, once the wipe occurs, you'll want to, you know, start fresh on the actual servers and play there. So anxious to play after the wipe. Good. Me too. I'm so excited. Will there be an enchanting profession to improve items? There will. Yes, there will. Is sleepless still a thing? Absolutely. Yeah, we have, I really like where we had lightning strikes back in the day because they were, like I said, they were very, like, haptic and felt very visceral because you'd be running around and you would just see, like, these little sparks starting to form on the ground. Very like Breath of the Wild, like that's actually what I wanted to kind of model it after, was what lightning strikes in Breath of the Wild feel like, where you kind of see it kind of starting on the ground and then it builds up. You see like little pebbles and stuff kind of floating up in the air, and then the strike hits and it does like the heaviest damage right in the center, but it does splash damage radiating out. There's a little bit of like a camera shake and just feels really good. So we'll get those back for sure. What's up, Titcha? I'm eagerly waiting for the reset to happen so I can try it out. I read somewhere the game doesn't have a map. Is that intentional, or are you adding one later? We're adding one later. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a map. Legit question, is there anything in the TOS regarding multi-boxing, or is it kind of encouraged, discouraged? Philosophically, it's kind of pay to win, but it's also in the spirit of older MMOs. I personally do not like multi-boxing. We've not yet gotten to the point where we've made like an official statement or have an official stance on it yet, so it's not, there's not an issue with it right now. Like, you know, people are welcome to multi-box. And I'm very aware that that is how some people just want to play their MMOs, and that, you know, they kind of see it synonymously with playing an MMO. So whether we will draw a super hard line on it or not is yet to be determined. Like I said, if it were up to me, I think it has enough of a substantial impact on the social fabric of MMOs, where if multi-boxing is like just kind of fully allowed and there's no restriction on it, I think it can really hurt how these games feel. That being said, I think something like having servers, specific servers that are multi-box friendly, is a way to approach that, and something that I'd like to look into. But yeah, we don't have an official stance on it yet, or like, yeah, like any kind of binding or, you know, rules around it. Ready to cry? Yeah, me too. I really enjoy that too, about the technique, the feel of techniques and how they can kind of flow in and out of combat. And so, yes, with the new iteration of techniques, you will still have that offensive technique that will function in the same way. Something like really light, you know, and kind of easy to weave in, but, you know, punchy, feels good. And then you'll have your utility technique and your reactive technique that will be more situational. But yeah, you should definitely still feel the goodness there of how they feel now. Yep. What's up, Drang? We have not announced a specific date for the PTR yet, but it's coming relatively soon. It's definitely coming before the spring update. So, but it's not out yet, so you haven't missed it yet. Psychopada, hi, if you accept my feedback, I played the game non-stop last week. The game is solid, but gameplay seems so much button smashing. The skills you just add you 90% damage, 10% soul utility, and in long term you just rotate the more optimal combo. I feel so much variance in the combat until you need to interrupt a cast. I do not feel much variance in the combat until you need to interrupt a cast. Yeah, that's fair. What's interesting though is, again, as an iterative process, like we have been down the track before in various iterations of the game where combat has been even more, you know, had even higher actions per minute, even more inputs, and a lot more reactive type stuff going on from fight to fight. And everybody's different. Like, this is one of those things that does get subjective. But there is a different kind of fatiguing that happens when you have to have so many inputs and so many button presses during combat, like we used to have, that are all very like reactive, where you're constantly having to watch for this effect or that effect. I do think, and I think the summoner will be an interesting, it'll be interesting to see ultimately how players feel with the summoner, because we've actually kind of simplified the kind of the loop for the Zephyr and the Fury, their DPS pet, to something that I feel like is really nice. It's simple enough that it can become very kind of like, I don't know, Zen-like, where you're able to focus more on things you need to react to, on your positioning, on how you're weaving in some of your other abilities. But yeah, I mean, it's good feedback. It's good feedback. It's another thing I think is going to help with that in general is we have a lot of updates that we are planning to do on the clarity of things with like the UI information, floating combat text, nameplates, visual effects. There's a lot of clutter, visual clutter around combat, which can make it hard and less enjoyable to watch for and react for things, because it can just be really easy to miss. So in the spring, with the TTK increase and kind of some of the simplification of that noise, I think that will make the responsive aspect of combat a lot more interesting, and just enjoyable in general. How would you enforce rules against multiboxing though? I mean, there are ways to do it. There are definitely ways to do it. I mean, it is a little bit, it can be a little like CS intensive, like customer service intensive to like really police it. But, you know, it's also, I think there are enough people that are like passionate about multiboxing in the player base that, you know, I think there's It's not always clear when somebody's multi-boxing, but you know, what we have found, and I think what we can all attest to, even as gamers, is that like whether you can ever fully stop it, if your intent is to stop it, having a stance against it at least helps. Because if players know that we're going to action against it if we do see it, that alone does a lot to kind of keep it more in check. Gotta remember to do my working on my casting skills. Yeah, visibility, I don't know. I don't know where I land on that. Like, there's a lot of people that, yes, they look at some of the ways that Pantheon's evolved even since they've been following it. And they see things where we've kind of like, you know, like, let me ask you this. What does some of these other games, and I'm talking to you specifically visibility, but anybody else can hop onto this. Any other game, past or present, released or in development, that you would say is an old school, classically spirited game that is difficult? What makes it difficult? Other players. That's fine. I mean, that's fair. My Pantheon's been difficult at times. In various ways. So you could say difficulty is in how punishing a death penalty is. That's one way. You got a really steep death penalty. Maybe you even go as far as have like a naked corpse run, or you know, when you die, you lose a much heavier chunk of experience. You leave all of your stuff on your body. You respawn and you have to get back to your body. Like, that's a way to talk about difficulty, challenge. Then you've got difficulty that's like, what I would call like group forcing difficulty, which is what Pantheon was like heavily stacked on, and is currently heavily stacked on, is that that forced grouping difficulty, where, you know, NPCs hit like a truck, they've got a ton of health, like you've got to be on your game, like you've got to be like, you've got split seconds to respond. That's a form of difficulty, and Pantheon certainly has excelled in that category at various times. But what we found, and what I think is important to understand, is like, one of the reasons that EverQuest was so special is like there were specific places and specific ways that EverQuest was really hard, but it wasn't like that as a baseline, such that, you know, I would say the largest portion of your player base was alienated. And that's often what we would see in Pantheon is, are those better? No, they're the same thing. Not better at all. But I'm interested in understanding what players count as challenging. Like Elden Ring, Dark Souls, very challenging game. But the game is built around the idea that you are going to have multiple chances, chance after chance after chance, to keep going against the same boss, learn the mechanics, learn the timing, and eventually you can win. That's a challenging game. How well does that equate into an MMO? When you have people that are, you know, they don't have more than 2 or 3 hours to play. It takes time to like gather people together and form groups and get to these places and make their way down to where these targets are. And then when you get there, if the built-in expectation is that, you know, even a well-oiled, voice-commed static is going to potentially struggle or take time, multiple, you know, attempts to get something, then how does, you know, a casual group of, you know, people that are just looking to, you know, escape into an MMO and have a good time, how are they going to engage with the content? And so when we talk about difficult, challenging things like that, we have to consider like what's the point where we're alienating people that would otherwise really love and enjoy the game, and also remembering that that group, even though they're not hardcore, even though they're not there like because they're just like thirsting for challenge, that group is part of what makes the overall player population high enough for everybody who's playing to feel like the game is thriving, to feel like the game is alive. Because I don't know that there are any hardcore players who don't enjoy having non-hardcore players still existing and inhabiting the world. Because I mean, who else are you going to show off for, right? You know? Yo, Gulu, thank you so much for the raid. Yeah, Brent, I hear you, and that's the point I'm making exactly. Is like, I want Pantheon to be a challenging game as well, but I want it to be challenging where we design it to be challenging for the players that are interested in that degree of challenge. I do not think that the game... So, and there's a line. Like, I do agree. There's a lot of people that talk about tension, and like when there's a lack of tension, there's a lack of stickiness, and I agree with that. Pantheon needs tension. That's why we have a death penalty. That's why we have travel mechanics. That's why we don't have instancing. That's why we have the plans we have with our map system, and why we're doing it a specific way. Like, there is... Tension is really important. But how much tension? And how early and how often and how saturated the game is with tension is a decision point. And you're going to see different games landing in different places with that, you know? But it does not mean that you can't have those parts of the game that are much more challenging, you know? They just come later, or they come in the form of like our infamy system, things like that, where it's there for players who want it. If you cut back on friction, what will keep people around? So you need to explain that one to me a little bit. Like, what is it about friction that you think keeps people around? Bro, I am missing a lot. Oh, I need to eat my food. Can I eat this during combat, bro? Yes, I can. There we go. Hit rating. Boom. Let's see if that helps. Hello? Okay. Yo. Oh, and it's friction, by the way. That's the word I meant to say, not tension. Friction. Yeah. I'm just gonna stand and eat that cleave over and over again. It's no big deal. You know? Let's see. Let's see. Sorry for repeating, but Joppa, I just hope you go for challenging and difficult and never tedious for the sake of making something take longer. Yeah. Psychopata, exactly. Psychopata, exactly. One of the things that makes MMOs challenging in general is the fact that you are dependent on coordination with other players. Yeah. Which, you know, is actually why we've walked back some of our initial plans for like group synergy type abilities through, like, you know, what we used to have with our techniques. Because what we found is that it was creating for groups that are, again, well-oiled, static, voice comms. It was fine. You know, you would call out what you needed. You know, I'm not going to get into how, like, even that, you know, after a while, again, from fight to fight to fight gets wearying. But, yeah, like, the degree to which you lean into how much you need to synergize and coordinate and be tactical with other players makes a really big difference in the overall game experience, especially for lower skill players or less locked in players that are, again, wanting to play an MMO because for different reasons, because they want to relax, they want to unwind, they want to get lost and explore and socialize and do these types of things. You know, I'm not saying that we're going to ride that train all the way to, you know, we're not making Palia here, but it's okay and important, I think, to have a combat system that is accessible, as long as, which we do, there are plans and places where we want to ramp that up to extreme degrees, specifically for groups and guilds and the types of players who want that, and rewarding them for that. I'm interested, so visibility, just to focus on some of what you're saying. Okay, so here you respond. I've got you pulled up so I can see the what you're saying here. So okay, visibility says, let me try to explain this as simply as possible. An MMO expects and needs many more hours of gameplay than a single player game, so you either need an exponential amount of friction or an exponential amount of content. The latter is difficult. Old MMOs, whether they realized what they were doing or not, added friction at every point, so it took more time to accomplish things. Not everyone wants to do everything in the game, not everyone wants to make an alt, etc. Okay, so let's I like this topic. I like this idea of friction. Let's poke at this a little bit. Brutix, will we ever be able to move out of range of mobs' melee abilities when casting? It feels like they have infinite range if they start to cast. Yes, I agree. I don't love that. So yeah, I expect that to be something that we tweak and tune a little bit as we go along. I don't want you to be able to just, like, especially once you get movement speed buffs and you have, you know, things like withdraw or dash or blink or various things, to just totally be able to cheese NPCs. But just kind of like in the same way right now that NPCs feel like they have infinite mana and you can never, like, burn them out, in the same way it feels a little cheesy on the other side where you just, yeah, you can't ever outrun something that they're doing. So we're going to continue to refine that. But I'm just curious, yeah, this idea that like an MMO has to be, because, well, let me ask you this question. And I'll put this back to you. Do you think there's ever a way to introduce an amount of friction that instead of running out of things to do or things being too easy to do, that the friction is actually what causes someone to stop playing? I miss the old days of EQ in Final Fantasy XI where you would form a party, set up camp, and a puller would pull mobs to the camp and grind levels that way. Is that a thing in Pantheon? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's like... That is the heart and soul of Pantheon. Yeah, for sure. That camp-style gameplay is, yeah, very, very much alive and well. Keep feeling like Bolt is like staring at me. I feel like I'm being watched. The friction is less likely to make people stop playing for an EQ spiritual successor. I'm gonna wait and get one more cast on this and get that skill up. Pardon me. Don't mean to interrupt you guys. Oh, is one of them named up? Yes, Peltmaster Crane. I will not be attempting that. That would be foolish. Yes, the right balance of friction, I agree. I agree. It's critical that that balance is achieved, because too much friction, again, it depends on how you're even defining friction. Like, what is friction? Friction is what? Like, can be a lot of different things. How long does it take to level? How long does it take to skill up? How much experience do you lose when you die? Things like durability systems. Then there's the kind of like weird old school janky friction, right? That like, how long does it take you to, you know, navigate the UI, or how many little kind of, you know, potentially arbitrary systems exist to just kind of make things take longer or be more difficult that, you know, could be streamlined. I don't know. I mean, you know, yo, Malkiel, bro, thank you so much for the 9 months and the Prime sub. Appreciate that big time. Thank you, Malkiel. Is friction the right way of looking at it? I mean, maybe not. I think we're just looking at it in a very specific lens right now, which is like retention, basically. The argument that's been put forward is that the more friction a game has, the more retention it has. It has a higher rate of retention. And I think that's an interesting thought. I don't know that I agree with it. Well, I do agree with it. And in fact, kind of my whole like MMORPG worldview centers on the fact that, yes, like part of the magic of old school MMOs and why we are building Pantheon is because we believe that there's something in that DNA of an old school game that has been lost, and one of the byproducts of that is that MMOs are often, when they come out and they are in kind of just the World of Warcraft, using the World of Warcraft recipe, players glance off of them so fast. Like they just, like, and it's because they've been there, they've done that so many times, and so much, there's so much worry about, like, the game being too hard, and so, or too punishing, or having too much friction, taking too much time, all that, you know, you gut all that because you're scared, and then inevitably players bounce off of it super fast because, yeah, like there's nothing new and there's nothing engaging, and that friction, I do believe that friction matters. I think it matters a lot. That's one reason why I'm such a huge proponent of the death penalty, why we won't ever lose it. You know, it's like it has to be there. You have to have some trepidation about death. You have to feel some sting for, like, everything to kind of, like, be in its proper shape when you play this game, and when you play, like, a proper, you know, old school MMO. You have to have that friction. So I do very much agree with the premise. What I don't, what needs to be discovered is, like, how much friction is needed, and how many different sources of friction. That's where I'm pretty sure we're gonna reach a point of disagreement at some stage. So far, all changes seem to have been to reduce friction. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that. We have made a lot of changes to reduce some of the friction. Not to get rid of friction, not because because friction isn't good, but take nighttime, for example. Nighttime's a perfect example. We just, not long ago, we made some really big changes to how dark the overworld gets at night. Again, this is not counting, like, underground and places that there really is no natural light at all, where you have to have light sources and things like that. I'm just talking, like, the overland. And there's a huge divide on, like, should we have done that? Like, what's too dark? That's a perfect example of, like, more and less friction. But that's the kind of friction I feel like, if it's too strong, if it's too much, you are going to unnecessarily lose people that you shouldn't otherwise lose, because they're literally sitting here saying, it's not fun to, like, die because I can't see anything all the time when it gets dark. It's not fun to feel like I just have to stop playing when it gets nighttime because it's so dark. That's another example where it's like, we need places that are that dark, where you go into it and you go into the first time and you're like, oh crap, like I can't see anything, I need to come back with better supplies or whatever. Absolutely have places that are like that, but not the whole game. And that's where I'm drawing a distinction, I think, a really important distinction. The kind of friction that you can't compromise, see, you know, death penalty, see travel time, see non-instanced, majority non-instance, and then the kind of friction that you can compromise when it's, you know, not threatening the DNA, you know? Is UI still placeholder? Almost all of it is still placeholder, yeah. How do you know you are done with the place you're at? Kevin, what do you mean? Like, just as a player? Like, when I'm done in a certain area of the game and want to move to, like, a different spot? Is that what you mean? I played Ascension, a WoW private server, for one of the raid bosses. You needed to drain his mana in order to beat him, and mana drain was a legit strategy, especially in PvP. Oh, I see, Essen. Yeah, you're talking about how NPCs in every game seem to have unlimited mana. Yeah. Yeah, when we switch to, like, dev mode here in a little bit, I'll show you guys some of the work I've been doing on that in particular. See how it's feeling at this point, because I do very much agree, and I think we've got a good approach now. Oh crap! Let's just come this way a little bit. There we go. Why don't you give them tools to deal with the darkness instead of getting rid of the dark? Well, we do give players tools to deal with the darkness. And they work really well in like tighter spaces, underground spaces where the light throw doesn't have to be crazy, you know, in order to see. When you're talking about overland though, like unless you've got like a major light throw, then I mean, I'm just, guys, like, as I've been playing the game more, this is one of the places that I used internally to, like, talk to Jim, one of our world builders, about, like, when the lighting was really the way it was before. And I would look out over this area, and it literally could not, let me see if I can find, hold on. Okay, hold on. Bear with me. Okay. Here we go. Go for one shot in particular here. Yeah, here it is. I'm gonna see if I can line this up, like perfectly. Well, let me scoot back a little bit. Try not to die to bolts. Who's probably somewhere close by. So if you've played Pantheon enough, you know that this little ravine here is, you know, there's a lot of like wandering NPCs through here. It can be a pretty dangerous area. Now, am I saying, and we've said this, but I'll repeat it. Am I saying that this level of darkness right now that you're seeing on my screen, what time is it? That this level of darkness is like what we're always going to have. Like this is the darkest nighttime's going to get. No, like it should be a little bit darker than this. I think it should be a little darker than this. Especially when you're not like in the moonlight, you know, when you're not out in the open. Now, what was it like? This is what it was like before we made the changes. Now, there are a lot of people that hated that we changed it, because that, like, it was right. That's what it should have been. That's what it should have been. This is like Vanta Black levels of dark. This is literally, you are incapable of seeing anything inside of here, and I died many times just trying to run across this little ravine because I literally could not see anything. Now, again, you could push that further and say, well, okay, you've got Ranger Flare, you've got, you know, other items and things you could introduce to the game to kind of manage that. But the point overall being that what we want to do with nighttime, here's what we want to do, okay? We want nighttime in Pantheon to be special, number one, because of the unique things that happen at nighttime. The unique NPCs that can spawn, the unique gathering and harvestable things that can spawn, certain unique events that can happen, perception triggers, things like that. That's part of what we want to use to make nighttime interesting and intriguing and mysterious and scary. Yes, it needs to be a little bit darker than this. A little bit. But when you go into caves, when you go down into dungeons, when you go underground, when you go into areas that have been magically altered to have very little light, or like a supernatural darkness or things like that, that's where you really want to get hit with, like, needing these various different tools to deal with it, not everywhere at all times. And that's, again, an example of like this friction discussion, where more or less friction, you know. Yeah. Yes, there is not a world map yet, but it is coming. It is planned. Will different races get infravisions, ultravision? Yes. Yes, we do plan to have racial vision, some with improved vision, and that will matter in the overland to a degree, especially when it's like storming and it's very, you know, much darker outside because of the overcastness, especially when you're in a lot of shadow. But it will be very beneficial when you are in like subterranean and like no light, low light areas. That's where it will be very beneficial. Let's get this level. We're almost there. You want more friction from the ground? Make my feet make my feet move slower because there's so much friction. Yes. Yeah, fire starter. I agree. I agree with that. All right, there was a question before. Lethal, if you're still there, can you repeat your question? I was planning on addressing it, and then I lost it. Thank you for the buffs. Thank you for the buffs. Loved seeing people in the distance using their torches. Yeah, me too. I did too. And that's why I would say that it is too... We need it to be a little darker because some of that is just vibes, right? You know? It doesn't need to be... You need to be able to see generally what is around you. We already have the mechanic in play where you can't see a nameplate, you know, until you actually come into the right distance of it. But you need to be able to at least see things walking around. I'm gonna die. Hold on. Wow. Okay. Why can't I cast? Oh, it was probably the keybind thing. But it should definitely be dark enough to be vibey. Ding. Being able to see players running with torches. Yeah. You travel through Pantheon zones with no fear at all? Well, why? I mean, you know, I have a couple of theories on why you probably feel that way, actually. To me, being in a dungeon, not being able to see anything is annoying. I do not remember that in EQ. It is just too dark. Well, yeah, again, the goal is not that you won't be able to see anything. The goal is that, you know, players should be incentivized to have light sources. Those light sources should be effective and increasingly effective depending on how good they are. And there should also be some elements of natural lighting in these dungeon places that at least create, you know, pockets of visibility. But yeah, I mean, not just flat out not being able to see anything. I mean, I know even just like playing No Rest for the Wicked, like that was one of the things I really did not enjoy about that game until I, you know, found out about the illumination rune or whatever. Is just how often you just couldn't see anything. And it just... So I think as long as the tools are available, players use them, you know, and rely on them and rely on each other. We have, you know, the notion of things like scouting ahead and how light, you know, plays into that. I think we can do a lot with light without making it just an annoying thing. But yeah, I have some theories on that. So one of the theories is... So why was EQ scary? EQ was scary because you had obviously a death penalty if you died, which we have. We have a death penalty. You lose experience, you can de-level, and all of your general inventory is left on your corpse, meaning all of your equipped gear you respawn with, but all of your bags, your coin, and the stuff in your inventory is left on your corpse. So you have to return to your corpse if you want to get those things. So, you know, you can argue, do you lose as much experience when you die in Pantheon as you did in EverQuest? You had the true naked corpse run in EverQuest, so depending on where you died, you might, you know, come back and just be sitting there for a while. So there's a little bit of a difference there, and I understand where EQ's was a little bit scarier in that sense, because the penalty was higher. But and here I'm gonna toss a theory at you guys, see what you think. One of the things I do not like in Pantheon right now is if you get attacked by something, you are very unlikely, unless you have a move speed buff, to outrun that. So you're just dead. Like, if you get aggroed by something in Pantheon, unless you have Spirit of Wolf or you're on a mount or something like that, you're just dead. Even with sprint. I'm saying even with sprint. Like, the leashing distance and how fast you go with sprint compared to EQ, or I'm sorry, compared to the NPCs, you're dead. And one of the things that I think actually contributed to the fear in EQ is the fact that you could actually outrun things, which seems weird. Like, that may sound counterintuitive, but like the fact that you could outrun things in EQ, and so the fact that you had this more of this prolonged, like, am I going to make it or not? Whereas in Pantheon, I feel like you just get run down. I think that contributes a little bit to the fact that it's not, in some ways, it's not as scary in Pantheon, because once you get aggroed, you're dead. It's like that it's already happened. Does that make sense? Let me see if I can do this right now. Let me see if I can actually, like... Maybe as a ranger, I'm not going to be able to do this truly. Obviously, would have to take Spirit of Wolf off. And wait for something to spawn. Well, the aggro radius is high in Pantheon too. I mean, especially if you're lower level to something. Like, the lower level you are to something, I mean, you know, it's a little bit different. One of the things also, here's another one, guys, that I think makes a huge difference, and this is why I'm like, the whole sight, sound, smell aspect of the game, I think super cool. I think it's a great layer for, like, traits, for certain NPC traits that they aggro based on smell or they aggro based on sound. But I am very much to the point where I'm like, let's go ahead and get everything in the game back to your general proximity based aggro. And that alone, because like if these thicket stalkers, like, he can see me. Wait. He can currently see me. But if I were to... Oh. Well. Anyway. I think going back to a more kind of like consistent aggro, that's, you know, you're not going to have a different experience if you're behind something. You're not going to have a different experience if you're moving versus standing still, or if you're in the frontal cone on top of like the level difference with aggro. So you've got like all of these different things factoring into like when something actually aggroes you. I just think that in general makes that part of it feel a little floppy. What's up, Creaky Doors? Good to see you. Well, I'm saying it's something that we're looking at because, like, right now, here's where it gets weird. And some of you guys have had this experience, I'm sure. Like, you're in a group, you don't do anything to gain threat on the target that you're fighting. Your group wipes. Maybe you're out of mana. You're sitting down trying to med, and before you can get enough mana to, like, heal or nuke or do anything, your tank wipes, the rest of your group wipes. And let's say that you are, however it all plays out, the last group member to fall is in front of you and the NPC is not facing you. That NPC, even though it's within like 5 meters of you, is not going to attack you. It's just going to walk away, even though you're standing right next to it. Because technically, you weren't moving, so it couldn't hear you. You weren't within 3 meters, so it couldn't smell you. And because it's not facing you, even though it's just ransacked your entire group, you're standing what feels like right next to it in a game sense. It just walks away. That... I'm not a fan of that. I'm also not a fan of, like, how it complicates our stealth mechanic. Where I feel like rogues have been like in an ever present state of like what's wrong with stealth. Stealth feels busted. And sure, I mean, maybe it does come down to just needing to kind of like clean it up a little bit, you know? Uh-oh. There he is. Oh, wait. Are we about to see a Bolt? Oh, we're about to see Bolt get absolutely obliterated. Who do we got here? A level 50. All right. We're here for the show. Woo! Dude, I mean, bolts. Wow. That's a lot of damage. Nice. Oh, somebody need help. Glorf, I retract my statement. I retract my statement about soloing Bolt at level 24 on a Necromancer. And I'm probably going to die here. Alright, here we go. We're going to see if we can outrun these. Probably... Thank you, bear. Wait, did I open that window? You were 28 when you soloed on the Dire Lord? Wow. What is that? Isn't that monk only? Yo, Loot back. Thank you so much for the tier 1. Appreciate that big time. Thank you, thank you. Sell for spell money. What forever do you mean? I always have more than enough spell money. Literally rolling, caked in it, if you will. No, I didn't have inventory space. It's all good. Are we planning player titles? Oh, good grief, yes. Good grief, yes. Now see, now, like, this is a level of darkness. Let's consider this level of darkness. I don't think this is bad. I would be okay with a nighttime that looked like this, because you can still read information in your surroundings. There's a couple of places that are a little iffy. You know, you've got like black furred like panthers stalking around here, and when they get into the shadows, it can be a little hard to see. But I like this. You know, things pop, lights pop. You can see lights moving. You can see little glowy, you know, harvestables and things like that. I could be okay with this level of darkness. And then when it rains and storms, instead of it getting darker, you just get a lot of the, you know, you get the rolling fog and the mist and things like that. But, you know, if we go down to this ledge here, like, this is not yeah, there's a big difference here, right? Big. Will we introduce classes not in EverQuest? Yes. Yes, we shall. So we have, I mean, we already have the Dire Lord, which is, doesn't really have an EverQuest equivalent. And then pretty much all of our like post-launch, post 1.0 classes are going to be fresh. No, Dire Lord is not the Shadow. It's not a Shadow Knight. Mm-mm. And a lot of our classes, even though they are named EQ class, like after EQ classes, like the Ranger, give another good example. The Druid. The Warrior. They play very differently. You know, they don't feel some of them do, but some of them don't feel super reminiscent of like the EQ class of the same name. Either they've like evolved, you know, much further past it, or they have all new like mechanics or much broader range of mechanics, things like that. Are the servers wiping soon? Alec, they are wiping in the spring. We haven't announced a date yet. It'll be sometime in the spring. Oof, man, that's so cool. Like getting that many hits on these targets while they're still running. Love it. Love it. This cave is still, yeah, this cave is actually still missing. It's like wave volume. Oh, really, crit? Yeah. Yeah. I did get asked by Phil when we are starting to work on the Bard, and that makes a perfect run of every single time I've spoken to him asking. So it's good. What's the plan on end game? Well, we plan to have a lot of in-game dungeons. We also plan on raids. Some of those raids, the majority of the raids will be instance raids, like instance raid encounters. We also plan to have some open world contested raids, world bosses. We also have plans for what we call an infamy system, which is a way for guilds and raid forces that are organized and consistent to, as they continue to take on and successfully defeat the same target over and over again, they actually accumulate infamy with that target, which at various points will kind of crank up its difficulty from, to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. And so the more you re-engage and successfully defeat the same target, the higher infamy will get. And higher infamy, again, is going to make it the encounter more challenging, but also increase the quality of the loot table, introduce new items to the loot table, higher chance for, better things to drop, things like that. That'll be something that we lean in, a place where when it comes to things like achievements and titles, we would lean heavily into that. So that's definitely a big part of the end-game. But there's also a lot of horizontal content that we have planned. So, exploration is a really big part of the game through the climbing and kind of the underwater content and the skills and the systems that are related to that. There's also the mastery system, which will definitely have a post-max level component to it, or your general mastery. So you'll see like this mastery experience bar here. These mastery points you'll be able to accumulate a good deal beyond once you've hit max level, and you'll continue to spend those points to incrementally improve your player over time. If you're a lore junkie, we have a whole kind of lore and story side of the game that we plan to develop out further over time. But we have this little thing we call the perception system, which gives you clues about the world as you move around, gives you insight, cryptic messages that could start a quest, could end up, opening up access to certain areas, increasing dialogue options you have with different NPCs. There's a lot in the kind of horizontal world exploration sense that the perception system will bring. Mount collecting, another thing that's still in its infancy, but is another thing that will be kind of a all the way through and then beyond max level system to engage with. Still in love with the Ranger Joppa? Yes, I'm digging it. Top of difficulty, how are you feeling after changing the tank buster stuff? I feel like it made CC interrupts not really needed. But more than that, interrupts aren't really appreciated either because people can just face tank them now. So no one really notices when you have a good chanter. There will definitely be tank busters. 100%. The problem is tanks. The problem is that, and I talked about this somewhat recently, tanks right now have too much health and not enough AC. Like, they don't have enough weighted towards their armor, and they have too much health, which I know as a tank sounds like, ugh, like, what do you mean, like, don't take away my health? But it's like, part of the issue that we have is you have tank busters right now that to actually threaten a tank have to do so much damage that compared to another player, if they get hit by it, they're just dead instantly. It's just a one shot. So we have to kind of, and part of what we're doing for spring is we're rebalancing that a little bit, where tanks are not going to have as much health, but they're going to have a lot more coming from their armor, which is going to actually incentivize them to care about armor and wear a lot of armor. But that means that our tank busters are going to be able to have things like armor penetration if we want to go that route, but not necessarily do so much damage that it's going to one-shot everything else other than the tank. So those will be coming back a little bit, and then you'll have, you know, more tools and things, you know, to kind of deal with those, which we'll talk about once we get into like the class refresh stuff. But you'll have a crit. Yep, you have a crit mitigation stat now, and some other things that are going to generally help you as a tank deal with those things. Yeah, we don't want DPS to tank it, but I don't think that means that they have to be one shot though. Yeah, and AC will be more impactful across the board come spring, even at lower levels. Like, you'll feel the effects of it at lower levels for sure. It's going to make shield block really, really important. We're level 11. I'll go sell. Yeah, I definitely don't want DPS and whatnot to be like ambivalent about taking anything to the face. Talking specifically here about the tank busters and like yeah, I think you can. I think you can make things scary for DPS. Make DPS not want to take aggro and get hit by anything without one-shotting them. Like, one-shot mechanics are. I don't mind one-shotting if we're talking about like devastating abilities that have like a more of a clear kind of wind-up and whatnot. Then that's one thing, because you're giving everybody plenty of time to kind of recognize what's happening and respond. But if we're just talking about something like Waylay, and like the reputation Waylay used to have, where it's like, it's just this, the lowest level bandits, you know, running around with Waylay, and it's, or Bone Spike, things like that, where you're like, it's so devastating to be hit by that, then that's more where I'm like, okay, one-shotting players with like a normal common ability and rotation is just, it's just a few steps too far. Goodness. That's red. Yeah, I know my colors. What's that red thing doing in the game? Let's make it brown, quick, before anyone notices. I'm going to leave you guys here for a second with the glorious sounds of rain and the denizens of Demeth while I a quick bio break. Why is this on brown? Accidentally hit my free camera there. Cool. No gamer bucket. Oh, well, you know. You don't know where I'm going when I step away. Let me do a quick bio break. I'll be back. We'll continue this. Probably be switching to some dev stuff here soon, actually. All right. Be right back. Alrighty. Alrighty. Okay. So, I have no inventory space. Let's see. I can get rid of this. And I can get rid of... Or I can, actually, instead of getting rid, I can sell. How about we do that, huh? Let's sell. And I can sell this. Okay. Cool. Got a little bit of cash. Dude, I love the way the rain... I love that. So cool. Is chair in a safe environment? Should we send help? Should we send Heppel? You know one of the cheat codes. Red Big, you know one of the cheat codes to instantly communicate that you are an OG. Because you know Heppel. I know, right? Rain. Rain is just... I love how the rain rains. Rain is just so watery and wet and rain-like. Yes. Have we decided what lies beyond the stone door yet? That is the gnomes. Are you talking about the stone door in Silent Plains? By the way, where was the green hat of yours? Okay, so... at the foot of our bed, there is a bench. And on this bench, there is often, you know, a sweatshirt or a jacket or, you know, maybe like a t-shirt or whatever. It's just kind of a catch-all bench. We don't ever use it. It's too close to the wall to actually like sit in it for any reason. So it's just a bench, but our dog sleeps on it. And sick looking gear. Our dog sleeps on it, and I found it under some other clothes and other things on that bench that my dog had been sleeping on. So yes, I am wearing my hat that my dog slept on last night, probably the night before. I don't know how it got there, but that's where it was. So yeah. Yes. Yes, indeed. Okay. We're going to switch gears. I'm going to switch off of this character for today. We're going to do a little bit of some Devin. About right here next to this tree. Well, I thought the same thing. I thought the beanie was probably going to be there too, and it wasn't. So. Search continues. How about check the fridge, the freezer refrigerator for your beanie? Kids might have been trying to make beanie weenies for dinner. Teeny weeny beanie. No, I have not. I have not. That's from Valheim, right? You were wet and cold? Just get a new one? Well, see, you know, that's easy enough to say. Just get a new one. But have you ever stopped to think about that one being special? You know what I mean? I hope you guys appreciate that. I am usually a much louder sneezer than that. So, spared you. It's bad. Okay. Have I played the new Pirate Survival game, Windrose? I have. I saw that it was a free demo, and I was like, picking it up. I've barely scratched it, but yeah, I played a little bit. What do you mean you're always suppressing your sneezes, Mohawks? Does that mean you're like trying to like kind of downplay them but still letting yourself sneeze, or do you mean you're like actually like plugging your nose? Because if you're actually plugging your nose, don't do that. Don't do that. Bro. I actually, funny enough, it's hilarious that we're talking about this. It's hilarious. This is probably the first time I've ever sneezed on stream. And it's funny that all this is being discussed because just last night was watching a video with my oldest called something like six times you were close to dying and didn't know it. And it was like this like top 6 list of like 6 ways that we come close to dying throughout our day, and it just seems normal and we don't even realize it. And one of them was literally like blocking your sneeze. And basically like you can rupture an eardrum, you can damage your throat, you can like blow out your not like explode your throat, but you can like damage like your throat. And there was something else you could do with like I don't know exactly, but ultimately, yeah, it could. It was the vein, the blood pressure. You can pop a blood vessel in your eye, but you can also like the blood pressure can like. It's just not good to do, not good to do. So I've never personally done that. 2 of my kids do it. My 2 youngest kids. And I'm always. I didn't even know that it was like dangerous. I mean, I assumed that it was like not good for you, but I was like, guys, like, don't do that. Just let it out, like. But then I saw that last night with the. So anyway, yeah. Obviously, your mileage may vary. Do what you will, but now you know. And knowing is half the battle. Do what now sneeze? Yeah, we were talking about like holding in a sneeze, like plugging your nose when you sneeze. How it's not good. Shouldn't do it. And again, I mean, just to be really clear here, number one, like, I'm not here to give advice on how you sneeze. So sneeze how you will. But I want to be really clear. I'm talking about, like, I'm not talking about trying to, like, stifle your sneeze by, like, trying to make yourself not sneeze psychologically or, you know, try to, like, get the itch away or anything like that. I'm talking, like, when you are full-blown sneezing, when you are just, you're going to sneeze, where you close your mouth and you pinch your nose and you like lock up all of the airflow holes to like keep yourself from sneezing. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I have come to learn is not good for you. Yeah. Why is Angry Samuel so angry? You gonna have to figure that out. Mm-hmm. Full Send Sneezes sounds like a good band name. I agree with you. I agree with you. We're on our way to the sold out show for Full Send Sneezes. Yep. Pantheon merch. I think that day will come, for sure. Faux show. You prefer getting medical advice from Twitch? That's fair. Yeah. People always laugh at mine. They are identified as a mix of a kitten sneezing and lasers of spaceships. Kind of a PPPU. Okay. My grandma had one of the most hilarious sneezes ever. I'm not going to try to recreate it. I don't know that it's possible. But it was hilarious. And we used to, my cousins and I, we used to literally try to make her sneeze just so we could hear it and laugh. I remember when we would go visit, I remember sitting in the back seat, and I would purposefully take tissues, because she had like tissues in the car, like tissue box. I would purposely take tissues and like rub them together, because in the sunlight you could see all the like stuff, all the little like particles and dust and stuff, just to try to make her sneeze, because it was so funny. Funniest sneeze I've ever heard in my life. An Eminence t-shirt, that's right. Yeah, we need to come up with a good play on Eminence at some point, you know. When the especially once the game launches, we need to come up with a good play on Eminence. Some kind of turn of phrase. It's always the year of infinite. I'm not sure what I was about to say there. Infinite? Impotence? It's always the year of imminence. Sell the cloth maps. I considered bumping my pledge up a level to get the map before I double checked and confirmed my original pledge included the map. Pledges had just been changed since then. Yeah, a cloth map would be huge. Yeah. A quest called Eminence. I agree. I agree with that. Max level cap at 1.0 will be level 50. We're not ready to talk about when that date will be, when the launch date is yet, but I can say that max level will be 50. Hey, what's up, Scassel? Good to see you. Good to see you. What's up, Scass? Hoi! Hoi! All right. What professions that aren't currently in the game are planned for 1.0? Just to be clear, when you say professions, are you using professions as another word for classes? Or are you talking like crafting professions? Sometimes people, depending on what games you've played, they use those words, mean something different. Crafting? Okay. That's what I assumed you meant. I was just making sure. Hold on. I gotta get I need to get to a different place here in game. Okay. Bear with me one moment. Okay, so crafting professions. Armorsmith, weaponsmith, tailor, leatherworker, fletcher, jewel crafter, carpenter, scribe, alchemist, provisioner, and scavenging will be... I am unsure if scavenging is going to end up being like a dedicated profession or if scavenging will be like a shared profession that everybody can do. Brewing and cooking, I think, are planned to be combined into provisioning. Now, I just want to make a caveat here, okay? This is one area I feel, given my role, I feel very good speaking authoritatively about just about everything, but crafting and gathering is not my area. And it's a vast thing, and there's been changes and tweaks and iterations and stuff, so that list is subject to change. Okay. Will recipes still take up a slot? I want to caveat this with, take this with the appropriate, subject to change caveat. I'm very confident that the current plan is for recipes to be consumed and learned on the whole. I think there is still plans for having certain recipes that are consumable. But we have discussed recipes being actually learned and schematics being actually learned instead of having, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of physical schematic items. And server's going down for a patch, of course. I forgot that I'm not sharing my screen. I have some things I want to show you guys. You see, here, for example, one thing. Got our ability loadouts here. So we're going to take a look at that. But I'm going to wait for the server to go down first. Yes, we'll be absolutely taking schematics out of the treasure chest. That is going bye-bye. There will be epic items. Oh yeah. Oh yes, there will. Let's go ahead and get our get some things down here on our bar. Already level 50? Yep, okay. Boop, boop. Nope, not you. That's a good question, AK. I'm gonna wait on talking about some of the particulars and details with crafting until I'm a little bit more prepared because I don't want to tell you guys wrong. Dude, I know. I cannot wait for you guys to get your hand on the new summoner. Oh my goodness. Look, see, so you see this messaging? You probably can't see it exactly, but as I'm adding these abilities, ability Elder Spear is already placed on the default loadout. It's already placed, replaced, blah, blah, blah. This is, messaging's not great, but it's letting you know that these abilities that I've added have been added to the default loadout. So if I go here and I switch to loadout 2, those abilities are going to be gone. If I now, let's say, start adding, it's literally, you can't write this stuff, guys. It's too perfect. All right. Are we going to be able to copy the load? I mean, Glorf... Don't you think that's asking a little too much? I mean, seriously? This is Windows levels of patch convenience. Nice. Good to see you, by the way, Behe. Someone said this bug wasn't true and it was all a lie to why the patch was delayed. You must be caught. Oh, man. What's up? The real Vicious. Good to see you. Yeah, let me pull it real quick. Hold on. Hold on. What's up, Yes? Good to see you. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I'm experiencing my own levels of friction right now. Okay, we might be back in business here. To answer your question, Glorf, no, you will not be able to copy a loadout. You'll have to set them up from scratch the first time, right? Okay, so we're back in the game. Please let me know if it's too loud. Let's check our audio real quick. I think we're good. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're good. So, our loadouts. Let's add a few more things to this second loadout here. You know, things like, oh, I don't know, this and this and this. Now, seeing if everything's visible to you guys. Yeah, okay, so we want to now, we have loadout 1, our default loadout, and loadout 2 now. Let's switch back to loadout 1. And now loadout 2. There it is. Now, the question I'm sure everyone's going to be asking. Hold on. It's auto combat only. Yes. Yes. Now, I've got this buff on me. If I switch loadouts, you lose it. Now, but wait. Wait. Hold. What happens if in my second loadout, irrespective of position, what if I have the same buff on the second loadout? Or on the new loadout? Oh, well that should work. So that's another issue we need to solve. Now, hold on, wait a second though. Surely it's not slot specific. Surely it's not slot specific. Hold on. The way it's supposed to work is if you have the buff in the loadout you're switching to, it's supposed to persist. And just so everybody knows, we'll be talking a lot about buffs and some of the changes we're making to buffs, because buffs, this whole buff dropping, buff bar, buff this, like it just, you know, yeah, needs some love. All right, here we go. I lost track. I'm gonna cast it on myself from here. We need to talk about buffs, yeah. All right, here we go. This is the default, so let's switch. Okay, so if it's in the same spot, it's gonna persist. There's that little caveat. I'm gonna see if we can get that fixed, because I personally, if you've already got the restriction of needing to have it in the new loadout, that's really all it should be. It shouldn't have to literally exist in the same slot, because you want to have the freedom of your slot choices, you know, just depending on what you want the other loadout to be. So, yeah. Okay, so the question, visibility, you asked, like, why shouldn't buffs persist even if they are off of your bar? The reason that it's set up this way, what we were trying to accomplish was buffs, sorry, I thought the grass was moving. We want the limited action set to be meaningful. And if you can throw all of your buffs that you buff everybody with on your bar, buff everybody, and then take them off and fill those spots with something totally different, then, you know, where's the decision making there? You know, like, where's the tension? Where's the friction? Like, in what you choose to have slotted at any given time. Now, that's a fine goal. What it actually ends up feeling like to the player is like something's broken. Like, this is a bug. It's not a great way to do it. So we've spent some cycles thinking through that, how we want to uphold the limited action set and kind of the sacredness of the limited action set, but not have that be the way it is. So we'll have some more info on that soon. Yeah. Okay. So I want to try some things here. Hold on. Let's get a Fury out. Interesting. All right, so we got our Fury pet. Let's do... All right, Ansel. Sweet. Okay. Let's get our little tunneler friend back here. We have an auto-attacking Fury, ladies and gentlemen. We have an auto-attacking Fury. We're in the Unity engine itself right now, so please disregard the flying squares and whatnot as things load. That was a projectile whose shader hadn't fully loaded yet. So once it loads once, it's fine. But since we're in the engine itself right now, it's just some of those little weird things. Some of those little weird things. Let's see. Ooh, I am encumbered. What if you want him to attack with the blue squares? I mean, you know, that's... You know, I didn't actually consider that. That would be something that, the players would want. Yeah, yeah. JTL, I need to fix that, actually. That's something I need to fix today. See that? That's pretty fun. That's a fun one. That's me. I did that. I made that mistake. That's a me problem. Something I did there. Awesome. The pet itself has a equipment inventory sets. Yeah, it has its own, and each of your pets as a summoner has its own inventory. So whatever I equip to my Fury pet is not going to be the same as my Zephyr pet. So I will be able to equip them both uniquely, which is cool. Oh, I was gonna show you guys the armor. Where's my... Let's just do this. Gosh, my brain, I can't remember what I called this. Hold on. Chest, head, shoulders, waist, wrist. Oop. So you have your equipped items on your pet. You have those, visible on the pet. You got your weapons, which, I'll fix this today. You got your Aether Stones, weapons for your Fury pet. All of these things are able to be, improved, upgraded, things like that. Twitch being twitchy. Eh? Ah. But now look. Hello? J-Core is already following me, so there's really no reason I should be asking him to do so, because clearly he is. Oh, let me check this real quick. Letting Steve know. Letting Steve know. Let's cast this guy again. I'm not going to spend too much time here because I wanted to show you guys a few other things, but we did get a chance to take a quick look at loadouts, which is sweet. I'm excited about them. How's the ping on the servers if you're in Europe? That's a good question. I do not know. Do not know. I'm really excited about these guys, so I'm gonna prematurely show them to you because I'm just excited about them. No more legs. No more showing off legs. But I wanted to experiment a little bit with potential like telegraphing of mob types, because we have these 3 NPCs, these cursed servitors. They're all wizards, but they're wizards that have different, you know, elements that they're attuned to. And so I thought it'd be interesting if, like, you know, you were able to tell from a distance. Fire wizard, cold wizard, shock wizard. I'm curious to see how that feels kind of as you like move through an area. But yeah, when these 3 attacked, that was pretty Now, I'm going to despawn these 2. Because I want, let's watch. See how the mana situation goes. He done chewed through his mana. Oh, he got a little bit back. Just a little bit. He should have to sit. Hold on. Need to rest. Cool. You can actually see, you know, you can see the mana ticks that he gets back here. So he's at 11 mana, bumped up to 16. So what I did, and what I think is going to actually work really well moving forward, is I've only done it with this one. I wanted to kind of test it out and see how it felt, and I'm feeling pretty confident in it now. But what I've done is, instead of NPC spells using a flat amount of mana, I'm going to be switching them to use a % of their maximum mana for their spells. And that way we can ensure that, you know, regardless of what level and how large the mana pool or whatever, that it stays relatively consistent and smooth. And then I've reduced their mana regeneration, because before they were regenerating mana so fast in combat. It was wild, which was another reason why they never ran out, even though they had a flat mana cost. But then I've also, on each of their abilities, put a condition on their abilities to say you need at least the mana cost of this spell before you can cast it. Because another problem was, as soon as they got even the tiniest bit of mana back, they were casting, which is a bug. Like, it was a bug, but, you know, we'll get that bug fixed. But for now, they need at least, you know, if it's like 6% of their maximum mana to cast a spell, they need at least 6% of their maximum mana in their mana pool to cast it. And that's what's keeping them from actually, you know, they're having a little bit of recovery time to build it back up. But then once they get back up to, I think for this guy it's 6%. which is like 33 or 34 mana, then he'll have enough to cast again. Yeah. So yeah, you deal with that. You know, you've got to... Are they happening across the board? No, not across the board. They're going to be happening for Nightfall Crypt. And depending on how things go there, we'll definitely make iterations and tweaks as we need to on it. And then we'll expand it out. If they rooted us and went and sat down. Yeah. That's funny. What do their cooldowns look like? Can they be locked out for 5 seconds? Yes, they can. You'll definitely... There are some that are... Like, their main nuke is pretty fast. Like, the cooldown's pretty fast. Because that's kind of their main way of, you know, addition. But... and then they have their Fire Blast, which is super fast cast. That's going to be pretty difficult to interrupt. But their Bolt of Fires, their hardest hitting ability, that's the one that you'll probably want to target to interrupt. And that's like that'll lock it out for the full cooldown time, which will be like, you know, I think it's like 13 seconds or so on that one. Without sounding rude, will combat be polished at all? Oh yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that we're really, really working hard on is polishing combat. And that includes the animations, that includes like just the fluidity and transition of animations. A lot of it honestly includes cleaning up the UI, floating combat text, making things more clear. But I think we've already achieved a pretty smooth, relatively polished combat system and combat controller, but it's more about now just kind of really polishing the details and introducing more animations and things like that. Gunli, or Guni, like I said earlier, this patch is, well, let me just, so, hold on a second. Hold on a second. By the way, Mystery Realms, thank you so much for the Prime sub. Really appreciate that. And the 10 months of support, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Mystery Realms. Thank you. Bear with me. 1 sec. Okay. Yes, you can play first person in Pantheon, absolutely. Friends. Friends. The season, the epoch of robes is upon us. Still brownish. Trying to get a good, like... Two brown. Imagine the hair needs to hide. I can fix that. Actually, I might try to fix that right now, but oh yeah. Yeah. What's wrong with his face? It's nothing's wrong with his face. It's just hidden behind a mask. I'm gonna see if I can fix that hair thing. Let me think. Hoods really should have hair holes. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, guys, and we know it, we get it. Like, I think that is definitely one of the things that is and will certainly be part of keeping Pantheon from really popping off is like there's got to be good looking stuff. Like there's got to be good looking stuff that people are excited to get. That is just really freaking cool looking. And so, you know, that's a big part of what we're thinking about this year is like how can we start to introduce, you know, things that are actually like truly prestige items that just make your character look sick. And, you know, the way that we've built this robe, I mean, we can get so much mileage out of this robe. I mean, this robe, to give you an idea, just a little bit of like kind of secret sauce, this robe is also this robe. And this robe is also this robe. So I gotta fix the scaly legs. But these, like, when it comes to even just like shape, certainly color, style, like we get a lot of variety out of that. Single robe can do lots of really cool stuff with it. So. Yeah, oh, I've already put in the request, like, hey, we need basic robes, like full robes, but basic. You know, maybe even something like this guy that in like tons of different colors because we want, you know, new players that are a wizard or a necro or a summoner or whatever, to have, you know, their own distinct color. Yes, a hood and a cape toggle eventually would be sweet. I agree. 100%. I'm excited, guys. Like this is definitely starting to get into like the next level stuff of like, and I've even shown you the weapons. Like your minds are gonna go crazy when you see. I'm not gonna spoil the weapons, but I think you're gonna be, I think you're gonna be pleased. I think you're gonna be pleased. I think there's gonna be things that you really want to get. Like, oh my goodness. A moss-covered twig. I mean, that's asking a little much, don't you think, Paradox? A moss-covered twig? That's asking a lot, huh? You know. Mm-hmm. Do we have any concept art for dragons? Yes. Oh, yes. The best in slot weapon from Leonis looks like a Harry Potter wand. It's terrible. Are you serious? Hold on, I need to see this. I need to see this for myself. Is it the Scimitar of the Apricot Grove? Is that it? Oh, I see it. Blade of Savagery? Okay. Hold on, I want to see what this looks like. Oh, it's the... I know exactly what that is. Okay. Okay. Yes. 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 That one is... We could say that one's lacking. Yes. Yeah, if you want to... Yeah, I'll let you guys see what that one looks like. I mean, it's cool. I like the model, but yeah, it's definitely not. You know, it'd be cool to see this on like lower level things. You know, and be something that you can pick up, not off a. Yeah, it's fair. Good rogue weapon. Needs more brown, of course. Of course. We've got some new shields coming in as well, which would be cool for you guys to see. Hold on. All right, let's go ahead and get this lined up here. So. Get a little light action. A little bit of light action here. Yeah, that's the nail. Let's see. Well, let's just get on this side. Got some low res textures as well. Finally get some tower shields into the game. Again, you know, nothing crazy. Like nothing, this isn't like, you know, highest tier stiff. Where's my, But the beginnings, anyway, of more of like a verified kind of shield progression. Again, we gotta get these are all really a little bit too low res. More shields. And I think you'll be happy with some of the changes we're making, we'll say, to shields, as far as like we've kind of clamped down on shields pretty significantly as far as like what stats they can have and like how beneficial they can be. And with a lot of what we're doing with armor and various things, shields are going to be in a better place. They're going to be in a much better place. You're going to want, if you're tanking and you can wield a shield, they're going to feel good to equip. I think they should be called Valids. Thank you, Black Fox, for the suggestion. And I'm sorry to do this. I don't know who I'm apologizing to, but I feel the need to apologize, but I'm going to do it anyway. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. By the way, Merrick, thank you for the Prime sub. Thank you so much. Freak, Nick, boy, thank you as well for the Prime. Appreciate that, guys, big time. Thank you so much. Okay, hold on. Now, I'm only going to show this for a second, okay? But it needs to be seen. Hold on. You ready? Now, there's more than just that. That belongs to a family, which includes some, we'll say, robust visuals. Yeah. No, I know that there are some people that have that, but I'm like, it's in the game as it stands. But a lot of people haven't seen it. But it's also the doorway into a family of weapons that are soon to come. Soon to come. Maybe sooner than you think. Shurikens too? Oh, good grief, yes. Shurikens, kunai, chakram. Lots of cool thrown weapon visuals. Oh yes. Oh yes. Let's see, anything else I want to hit you guys with? A fighting jug? Yeah. What's really the difference between a shuriken and a fighting jug anyway, you know? Dude, albatross. Are those legit? That's sick. I shouldn't say those. Yeah, those. You've got what, a katana and a, what is that, a wakizashi there? Sick. The jug hits harder. That's true. Can you imagine, guys, the day that we get to start looking at like bard gear? Can you imagine the day that I pull up like a loot on stream? That's gonna be a day. That's gonna be a day. My goodness, can you imagine? Dude. Oh, man. I also can't wait when this patch goes out. Like, I'm thinking about taking Fifolo for a spin through Nightfall when it launches. Maybe not the day of, but maybe like the day after or something. There's so much in there that we need to talk about. So much. It's going to be so good. Taking a day off for the new wipe too? Nice. Yeah. I'm serious about the hardcore stuff, guys. I'm serious about doing a hardcore run. We need to do that. We need to do that. I need to figure out who's on board, and we need to do it. When is the wipe? The wipe is coming in the spring. We have not announced an official date yet, except that it is coming in the spring. Yeah. And with it, if you don't know the details of everything coming with it, it's actually coming with a massive game update that touches tons of different things. if you go to our website, in the news section, you'll find we did a series of, I think, 9 dev blogs talking about all the specific things coming in it and coming with it, and it'd be good to read. Good to read. What's your favorite class? Out of the ones that I have played, not like as a developer, not in testing, but I've actually just like got in and legitimately played and invested hours and hours in and days in and things. That's hard. I'm really starting to enjoy the cleric. I've really been enjoying the cleric. It's a little unfair because I love healers and I'm typically a healer. So it kind of has a little bit of like, you know, a lead. I haven't played the druid extensively yet or the shaman extensively yet. So out of the classes I've played, I'm going to just stick with the classes I've played. That's cleric, ranger, warrior, rogue, paladin, and then enchanter. I'm not even going to count the current summoner because it's so different. Or the current for you guys summoner. I don't know. I'm really enjoying the ranger. And I'm already, see, one of the reasons that I'm doing this as well is because it's giving me so many ideas for how to like flesh these classes out even more. Like, even if it's not fleshing them out so much in their like the core capacity of the class, it's like there's so many cool little like offshoot abilities or, you know, secondary or tertiary type abilities that could just be so, it could provide just so much kind of like depth and interesting elements to the class. Like with the ranger, like there's so little that we've tapped into with their druidic magic. That again, they don't have to like be abilities that turn the tide of battle, but just things that are cool, just things that are extra, you know? I'm really liking the ranger a lot. Yeah. No, that's fair symbiosis. I know that everyone's like really eager to hear what the class masteries are. I've shared as much information as I'm comfortable sharing until we are actually going to like sit down and look at the, like, honestly, well, I don't know if I want to go that far with it. I was going to say part of me wants to wait until we can actually like look at the classes with mastery implemented and talk about like what their trees are going to be. But I think it's going to be okay to put out, like I said earlier, we're going to be doing these articles on the class updates coming in the spring. So all the classes are going to have their pass where we kind of revisit their overall kits. We potentially add some new things like I was just discussing, things that are, you know, maybe more flavorful or just kind of filling out the kit a little bit, but then also making sure that there are upgrades and kind of the full suite of things up to 50, making sure that there are like milestone abilities and things that are like really exciting to get, that you're, you know, looking forward to getting all the way up. And then also in those articles, I think it's a good opportunity for us to at least introduce what the 2 branches of the class masteries are and talk a little bit about the theme. We can always wait to get down into the details and into the weeds when we can actually do like a walkthrough. Does anyone actually use the Ranger DD spell? I haven't really found a case to use it over other abilities. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So yeah, I'm using it. I mean, the little I've been playing the Ranger, I'm using it just to make sure that my spell skill stays up. But it's like there's so much that we still need to tap into with that stuff for Rangers. Yeah. We might be able to do a little bit of that, Joskar. Yeah. Like, not for every ability, but I think there could be some to have, like, baby forms for this ranger could be cool. Talk a little bit more about cool-looking high-end gear. Yes. If you still haven't implemented the masteries for all classes, how will it be released by end of June? Well, I don't understand. I don't understand. You're saying that based on, I guess, what like how long you think it would take to do it, but based on all of the planning that we've already done, based on the progress the mastery system has so far in terms of implementation, I mean, yeah, like, we good. Are the Rangers going to have a pet class? No. No. Now listen, I will say, I know it's a lot. Like, I know the spring update's a lot, but like I've said, like, we trying to think how to word this. We did a good job during seasons to understand our trajectory and to have a good sense and to gain a good sense of what we can deliver by when. And we've been doing a lot of class updates. We've been doing a lot of system implementation. We've been doing a lot of implement, plan, design, plan, implement, iterate since seasons. And when we set about to kind of make this massive announcement, right, this like rolling announcement with all these blogs and all these things, we did that with all that we've learned, the way that our team has grown a lot since then. We have just a lot more people contributing to the work, and with the understanding that it is a lot. That's why we have given ourselves spring as our time frame, because we understandably there's likely going to need to be some padding there. You know, when we get to the point where we can talk about it and I can say, hey guys, you know, in retrospect, this was our target date, but the reason we said spring is because we knew that we might need a little bit of padding based on just how things go. You know, that'll make more sense. But yeah, I understand it's a lot, and I understand there's some natural, like, feelings of, man, that's a lot. Like, you guys are really gonna be able to get that done? But yes. Is there a chance the spring update gets pushed back to summer? Absolutely not, because the summer update is girthy. So we have to make sure that we get everything done for the spring so that we can get everything done for the summer. Mm-hmm. Girthy indeed. Yeah, the PTR is going to be really helpful. For sure. I'm excited, guys. Spring is going to be fun. Spring's going to be a lot of fun. Oh my goodness. But yes, Bobby. Cooler looking, higher level gear, yes. I am not exaggerating when I say it is one of the things we are prioritizing this year. Hattori Anzo. Yes. Yes. So you will be hearing and seeing a lot of improvements on that side of things. And yeah, Yep. Yeah, we actually talked about customization today as well. We have a animation meeting on Wednesdays. We talked about, kind of getting all of our ducks in a row and prepped for character customization, and we start working on that. Yes. Freaknik Boy, yes. So it's a Wild West PvP server. We launched it and we were really clear, like, hey, we're not going to be putting a lot of effort into this right now. Not a lot of support. It kind of, anything goes. And, it had a nice, healthy population at the beginning. I think the intensity of the anything goes, like, we didn't even have any safe spots, safe zones. Like, there were no areas where PvP was disabled and like villages or anything like that. I mean, it was just crazy. So it lived for a bit, and then it eventually kind of, we population was lost. So and it's just, it is what it is. I'm hoping we can have time, at least in time for the spring update, to introduce those safe zones to come with the patch. But full support and permanent support and like different rule sets and other kind of cool things related to PvP, that's going to be like a down the road thing. Yeah. But yeah, I'm very, very, very much on the classic PvP bandwagon. I love classic PvP. I think Wild West kind of rule sets. I'm a big Sullen Zek guy. I think classic PvE focused MMORPGs are some of the best hotbeds of like awesome PvP. Really, like, emergent gameplay, player sovereignty kind of PvP situations. So I'm excited for PvP and Pantheon. We do plan to have more curated PvP as well down the road. I don't know that we'll ever go like battlegrounds, like traditional battlegrounds, but there'll be some things that are adjacent that I think are even cooler. But that's definitely down the road. And as a general disclaimer, I feel like I always need to give when we talk about PvP, we're talking classic PvP, meaning don't expect surgical balancing, don't expect esports level balancing, don't, get all upset when, you can't do anything against a bard because bards are just, those kind of imbalances. It's going to be the way that it is. And then it's up to players to figure out, if you want a solo PvP, you got to pick the class for it. If, because it's so PvE centric as a game, then you've got to think in terms of like groups that are actually capable of doing PvE content and handling PvP when it shows up. That's the best in my opinion. So, but yeah, that's a lot of that's going to be down the road. We got to make sure 1.0 is locked in, make sure that the fundamental PvE game is everything we want it to be, and then PvP will just benefit from that. The better the PvE foundation, the more awesome the PvP can be. And it will always be server based, right? So that's another important thing to say. We don't have plans to mingle PvP and PvE. There are so many people who want to play Pantheon that don't want anything to do with PvP. So there will fundamentally be a distinction between the two. There'll be like /duel and things like arenas and stuff, if you want to get a little taste of PvP here and there. But if you want a PvP in Pantheon, you'll do that on your own server, like on a PvP server, or you'll do that through ways to like queue up and opt in to PvP things from your PvE server. So you'll go to locations and actually like queue up for the more curated stuff. But like I said, we're probably not going to do traditional battlegrounds like capture the flag type stuff. We're going to end up doing, it's much more likely we'll do a survival extraction PvP experience. Because I'm a Tarkov nerd. And I think MMOs need it. But I'm talking like punishing. I'm not talking like whatever it's called. I can't remember. I always forget what the WoW thing was called, plunder or something. I'm talking like, yeah, punish. No no PvP gear, nothing like that. Yep. After spring update, you guys are going to keep boxing out? No, not yet. We're not going to draw a hard line on boxing just yet. Which, I mean, honestly, I should say we're not. It's still to be decided exactly where we're going to land on boxing. All I can say right now is just to reiterate, I think boxing is ultimately detrimental to open world, highly social PvE MMOs. If left unchecked, I think it can really, it can potentially ruin it. So I think I do see us and will push for us taking a stance against boxing. Yes, multi-boxing. But I think we definitely need to have servers that are boxing friendly. Where it's like, hey, if you want to multi-box, if you want to, box 12 characters, like, we've got servers for that. And people that don't care, they can play on those servers, But that's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because a lot of people play MMOs to box. That's what people like. And we're a game. We're also a business, and we want the game to thrive and things like that. So we do have to take things into consideration. But at the end of the day, I think the best compromise is give players that like to box, because players that like to box, I would say a portion of them enjoy boxing specifically because they can do it in the context of having a world full of other players to do it in. But I think a lot of other players that like to box, they box because they actually enjoy kind of doing their own thing, And it's like, it's not necessarily going to bother them if they just have a server they can do that on, So that's kind of where I stand right now. Yeah. Any warrior teasers? Well, we showed some of the new shields earlier. So the cool thing to remember about warrior is unique from all the tanks in regards to being the only tanks that can wear heavy plate mail, and the only tanks that will be able to wield have like tower shield proficiency. Paladins, clerics, they'll be able to have kite shield proficiency. Warriors alone will be able to wear heavy plate mail and wield tower shields. So that's a bean. That's an informational bean, but excited to have more to show, because as we're looking at armor and we're looking at item progression and aesthetic progression. One of the lines in the sand is like, okay, if we're gonna have a distinction between light plate and heavy plate needs to look like heavy freaking plate, like you are literally a tank, walking around. So we'll have lots of good things to show eventually. Mm-hmm. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I've boxed before too. I mean, I've boxed plenty of times, and like on the EQ servers, I've boxed extensively on some of those, and it's fun. It's definitely fun. I mean, it's cool. What I like about it is that it allows you to have this kind of like ensemble of characters that are all leveling up, and then when you want, you can just pick one, and you have all these higher level characters to pick from. So you're able to kind of like progress all these characters at once. But again, it's like, that's cool. But, that all of that is time you could be spending playing one of those characters in a group, interacting with other people. You know, there's like that. It just really affects that social aspect pretty heavily. So, yeah, exactly, Mo, exactly. Hey, what's up, Nicodemus? Good to see you. By the way, just let me play. I saw your message earlier about Friday stream, Friday primetime stream. Yeah, they've been good. I feel like the Friday primetime streams have always gone well. There seems to be a lot of new people that come in on Friday nights. I'm also trying. I mean, I have no control over it, but I really, really would like to try for the spring update to get on the Twitch front page. I'm going to be trying to apply for that slot when we get to the spring update. That would be awesome to be able to stream, be on that front page carousel on Twitch when that drops. That'd be sick. But anyway, that was random. But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can do a Friday stream this week. I'm gonna try from here on out to do one on Fridays if I can. So I'll be looking to do that each week. We'll just have to play by ear. Need to advertise the Pantheon hot tub stream? Yeah, I was afraid you might say that. I was afraid that might be the case. Yeah. I need to do some special mental preparation for that one, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just me in chair, chilling in a hot tub. Yeah. Be a good one. Of course, let Bronson make the thumbnail, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The stream you did with Redbeard Flynn, I thought was good. Yeah. I'd love to do some more, why is the word escaping me? Collaboration streams. That'd be fun. Which, by the way, for any of you that have heard of Scars of Honor, it's another indie MMORPG in development. I'm actually doing a stream with the founder of Scars of Honor next Thursday. We're doing a joint stream. Give us a chance to talk about both games and kind of cross-pollinate a little bit. So, be cool. That'd be cool. All right, my friends. I think that's going to be a wrap for me today. Awesome stream. Thanks so much for being here. Can't wait to have more stuff to show with you guys. I always feel like I'm holding so much back because we're trying to coordinate updates and when we get to put all this out there and trying to maximize all that. So, but more cool stuff to look at soon. Is that mask glowing at night? Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Rune Links. Yes, it is. But like I said, I'll try to be back on Friday. If I am, I'll make sure to let you guys know. And yeah, again, thanks so much for being here. You guys take care. Have an awesome rest of your day. And I will see you guys again very, very soon. Adios, my friends. Till next time.